Karl Marx said that youth under the age of 25 should be at least reactionary and they should at least be rebel.
So in order to counter that or even create a legitimate balance, right now India and China relations border ko chhod ke, the trade relations are balanced in that way.
Social media is changing diplomacy.
Yes, agreed. Absolutely.
India's influence will continue to grow globally.
Yes, absolutely. 110%. People think that they are electing the people in the highest positions. That's the problem.
Perceptions of the people have not changed as rapidly as the reality of the country has changed.
What are the opportunities that student can expect after studying public policy? Hi and welcome to this episode of the Manav Rachna podcast. This is your host Racha. Politics. It's one of those topics that everyone loves to talk about, but not everyone fully understands it. When we talk about politics in general, we assume it's all about politicians, television debates, and elections. But on the contrary, when we hear terms like foreign policy, international relations, and public policy per se, they seem to be a very alien concept to us. But everything is connected. The prices we're paying, the opportunities that are available to us, and how the countries are working together in synergy. Politics affects all of us. And let's be honest, in India, every conversation turns into a political debate, whether it's your college canteen, your social media feeds, or even over a cup of chai. So now we're bringing this conversation to the Manav Rachna podcast. And I'm really glad to welcome two esteemed faculty members from the School of Behavioral and Social Sciences. I welcome Dr. Anima Puri and Mr. Upmanyu Basu. They both are assistant professors at the Department of Political Sciences, Manav Rachna. Welcome, ma'am. Welcome, sir. So, ma'am, let's start the first question with you. What do you think of political sciences as a career? Can political sciences be a career as lucrative as other traditional careers?
When I think about political science, for me, political science is a science of power. It is something which tells us about history, it tells us about present, it tells us about the future prospects the society and the government holds. With political science, it can surely be a lucrative career, but people still are not well aware of the prospects that it holds. Earlier, it used to be associated just being a subject that people opt for pursuing UPSC, for thinking that UPSC would be one of the subjects for this. But as we see in the globalized world, we see that people get into media houses with this subject. It is good for studying policy risk analysis. Debates are happening around political science. We know that in the world which is interconnected, political science holds a very good merit these days.
Okay. And ma'am, when I say lucrative, I mean to say monetarily. How do you think political sciences pays you? Can a political science graduate earn enough amount of money?
To be honest, Richa, when we start the political science as a discipline, once we are graduate from political science, we see that we have to create our worth in the field. But as the time progresses, as you create your abilities, as you learn more about the subject, it pays really well. It is a lucrative field because when we see that these days we are being hired by government, we are being hired by media houses. A lot of debates are happening about how policies are changing. So yes, when the debate is happening at the intersection of how government and technology are playing a very important role these days, yes, political science has lucrative career options.
So ma'am mentioned policies. And when we hear the term policies, public policy immediately comes into the play. So, sir, first help our viewers understand what actually public policy is and what is the opportunities or what are the opportunities that student can expect after studying public policy.
Right. Firstly, thank you for having us. So the idea of policy as a discipline or a career is that it's the application base of any social sciences field for that matter. So for example, if you are studying gender, or if you are studying development, or if you're studying climate change, so there is a policy attached to each of these topics, right? So in order to get into the policy making or regulation part of this world, you need to do that through the lens of policy or public policy in general. So any of these things, whatever, this light, this camera, everything works on certain regulations. Like right now, I cannot say certain things because there is some legal mechanisms working in order to restrict us. So in order to do that, you require the world of public policy to work in a certain way. Now coming, like what ma'am was also suggesting, is that in order to enter into this field, you require certain skill sets, that's why you require a master's degree. In our Department of Social and Political Studies as well, that's why we have a master's degree in public administration and public policy, because we want first the child to get a hands-on experience of these core disciplines, maybe political science or economics or sociology. After that, in a master's program, getting into the world of public policy gets easier once you have a general background.
Okay. And so when we talk about regulations, regulations keep on changing when the society as a whole grows. But with the advent of AI, and AI is the current buzzword, how do you think political sciences and AI are integrating to a level so that students can feel that they are at the notch of everything?
So when it comes to AI, there are 2 or 3 ways that it can come inside the domain of political science. First is, if you look at political science as a discipline point of view, then AI is being used in order to study certain political behaviors for that matter. In Indian research ecosystem, it might be in its nascent stages right now. But if you look at the European markets or the academic circles in Europe, they have already started working on AI ecosystems, to maybe LLM models to predict political behavior for that matter. The second aspect is, for example, how do you teach political science by using AI? That is the second way of looking at how these two things will intermesh with each other. So there, right now, maybe in majority of be it schools or education centers like us, there is a specific challenge towards the evaluators or the academicians or the faculty members also, because you cannot keep the modes of assessment the same as it was like 15 years back. AI has changed that. So right now, if you just ask a student to write an essay of 1500 words, AI will do that job, maybe better. So where AI lags, now creative or critical thinking comes in political science or social science as a discipline. That is where AI has not yet been developed in that way that it can supplement your critical thinking. It might give a very standardized average answer, but a person who is skilled enough to understand how you can maybe talk about anything, gender, climate change, policy, political behavior, anything, in a nuanced manner, that nuance is not yet tapped by AI right now. But this we are talking about, this is 2026, so we don't know how AI will also develop in 2027. So maybe we can have another podcast then in order to analyze how AI has developed. Yeah.
Okay. So you said in India, when it comes to research, AI is still at a very primitive stage. Why do you think that?
AI research is in a primitive in a nascent stage, that will be a better word in a way, early stages, because right now we are still gauging, because majority of these things are testing models, they are beta versions of it. Majority of the spaces or research centers do not have access to the paid versions or the premier versions as well. So research is happening, especially in social sciences. Let me stick to where I work at least. In social sciences right now, the majority of the work is to study how AI can be incorporated without understanding how AI actually works. So there is still work needs to be done in the interdisciplinarity of these research agendas or research items. Until and unless a person who actually knows the nitty-gritties of AI and someone from the policy or the political science version sits together, these conversations cannot really happen in its real potential. Right? That's why in India also, majority of the work is happening in AI regulation, because that's where we can come in. And in Europe as well, like they have better data protection laws in that way. So in India, still work needs to be done, but there is heavy effort that is being made. That is also needs to be put right out there. And for example, in our departments or our schools also, we have seen there is huge conversation about it. So that's why I said it's an early stage in a way. So we have years to go, but yeah.
Okay. Ma'am, I would like to take the next question from you. Ma'am, when Sir talks about how the department is incorporating social sciences with AI as well, do you think data hallucination is another problem that students or researchers are facing?
Yes, Richa, I would absolutely agree with Upmanyu. When we specifically talk about our field in social sciences, there is a lot of ethical implication and credibility which we have to take into consideration. And when I talk about ChatGPT or other search engines, when we talk about, suppose for example, we give students assignments to do, and when they use AI, use of ChatGPT, it's absolutely very well reflected in their assignments, because sometimes the ChatGPT doesn't give the correct literature sources also. There is certain ethical consideration, there are certain credibility misusage, and we see that the literatures are not mentioned in a right fashion. So yes, when we rely on ChatGPT and other search engines, it is very important that we go back to our literature, we go back to the real sources, and then compare that whether we are getting the correct information or not. Taking the first-hand information from ChatGPT would not serve the correct purpose, because yes, literature, the correct use, the correct information that is given in the literature is where we get our real studies from. So students might take help of ChatGPT or other AI search engines to know what the literature is. For example, we've given one topic to study and one assignment. They can go back to AI and see that what are the literature sources they can use to do that assignment, but then they should go back to the correct literature, the real literature, and then learn from there and then come for the classroom work. Yes.
Understood. Okay. So, ma'am, I would like to ask you another question related to this only. Political sciences, is a field that is considered a traditional field. But that also stops a lot of students from enrolling into political sciences as a career. And also because some of the parents, they still encourage subjects like engineering or medicine. They prefer these traditional pathways over political sciences. Why do you think that is still the mindset of a lot of people?
Richa, I believe that perceptions of the people have not changed as rapidly as the reality of the country has changed. Many of the parents, many of our people in the society still feel that the professional courses like engineering or doing MBBS are doing far better than what these courses like political science, public policy, sociology, in comparison to that. But when we look at political science, it is not just a subject which is just related to UPSC. It has become a level playing field wherein people are going into think tanks, people are getting recruited into government ministries. We are seeing policy advocacy groups. We are seeing public consultancy. People are getting into interdisciplinary approach also, specifically with political science. So yes, I feel that people should adapt to the reality changes also, as compared of the stagnant views on the fact that the professional degrees are more stable and lucrative, whereas the perceptions should change. We see that political science can offer also quite a stable career options for the students these days.
Yeah, understood. So, just like ma'am just said, that political sciences is very important for a student to learn. But when we talk about other subjects and other traditional courses like engineering, medical, we see a lot of graduates who per se do not have who are not comparatively that much politically aware. So do you think political science as a subject should be incorporated into other courses as well?
Yeah, that's a good observation. And the thing is that it's already started to be incorporated in largely majority of the universities, because these are regulations like coming from UGC itself, that for example Constitution of India is a course that is taught to BTech students. Then you have courses like Indian Knowledge System, for example, that is incorporated to everyone, irrespective of if you're a design student or a journalism student or a pol science student or a medicine student. You have to go through these certain courses. The idea is that, for example, a subject like fundamental rights, It is important for you as well, it is important for me as well, and it's important for a lawyer as well, a medical practitioner, because these are certain things that everybody needs to have a working awareness about. Similarly, concepts like current affairs or world affairs, these are topics that largely, when you have in a system, when you have a veg thali, for example, you require a wholesome meal, right? So education is like that. You cannot just have dal and rice, you have something chatpata, something like a papad or an achar. That gives you a wholesome idea about what education is like. So for a BTech student, courses that we give, at least maybe in world politics or global politics or maybe open electives, for them it's an exciting course because maybe they are jaded with studying physics and maths for a very long time, and if they have a course on global politics, it's interesting for them, and there is skill development aspect to it as well. So it does both the jobs together.
So you said that everyone should be at least politically aware and everyone should know current affairs. But do you think knowing of current affair is enough? And like, what's the difference between understanding current affairs and knowing current affairs?
Yeah, see, there are two ways of it. First is that, for example, what is happening in maybe like China and Taiwan, what is happening in Russia, what is our foreign policy. These are things that everybody knows to some extent. Everybody has a working awareness about it. If you go to any chai ka dukan, for example, you might get more politically nuanced conversation about what is the ground reality of what is happening in India or Delhi for that matter. What is your opinion about a politician, this and that. There is working awareness, definitely. But the job of a degree, for example, if you are taking a course in BA Political Science Honors, for example, the opinion that you have and the larger skills that you have in order to observe an event or a geopolitical or a political event, these are two different things. So the nuance and the way of looking at the same event from different perspectives, from different stakeholders is different. Otherwise, everybody will say the same things. What is the logic of being trained as a journalist? Or what is the logic of being trained as a political science student if everybody has a working awareness and the awareness is the same? So that difference is the skill aspect of it. For example, a person who has a working awareness about what is happening in China won't be employed as a geopolitical risk analyst of Chinese companies working. For that, you need to know the regulations. You need to know maybe some acts, functionalities of it. You need to know how a Chinese party works. These nitty-gritties, so the depth of knowledge is definitely different depending on how you are trained.
Because everyone can become a journalist. It takes a lot to become a specialist. And
yeah, definitely. Yeah, the skills associated with it is different. Yeah.
And that's how your cognitive ability comes to play, because everyone has a lot of questions to ask. So the answer lies in that how well you analyze the things and how well you can collect information from different sources and then come to the conclusion of it.
So ma'am, next question आपसे start करते हैं. How do you think political science or UPSC, how are both related to each other?
See, undoubtedly UPSC is the mother of all examinations. It is the toughest examination in the country, and people give it with a lot of pride and a lot of energy and a lot of, sentiments attached to it. But lately, earlier people used to think that political science is quite associated with UPSC. They should understand that UPSC is one of the primest and mother of all examinations, and people used to choose political science as a course in that because political science helps understands governance, public policy, policy structures, politics, how society comes to play. That's how people used to opt for political science as a discipline, as a subject for UPSC. But they should understand that political science, UPSC is not merely a destination for political science. It's a different academic field, it is an academic discipline which is quite vast, and people should also harness their potential understanding the academic discipline and not just associate UPSC with political science. Like I mentioned in the first question that you asked, that political science has a varied fields. If one studies political science, is just not restricted to UPSC. But yes, because political science deals with governance, public policy, understanding the governance structures, government, society, how they function, that's how it becomes very easy for UPSC aspirants to study political science as a discipline.
If I can just butt in, it is also a perception because majority, largely like 80% of the UPSC CSE syllabus, Civil Service Examination syllabus, it has a nature of being very closer to any social science fields. That's why the idea is that even if you are a IITian, at the end of the day, you take a coaching to learn political science or IR
Absolutely.
because they are quote unquote considered to be scoring subjects as well. So this perception is also coming from a lot of years of patterns, and the UPSC has also evolved over the years. And again, this is a traditional choice because if you go through this examination, you have the probability of reaching to the most important chairs and designations in this entire country still. Because you do not live, this is not America where there are lateral entries. India also has lateral entries, but right now it's not to that nature. Right now, if, for example, if you want to be a joint secretary or secretary of a ministry, you have to be an IS officer. So if the route is defined, then UPSC then becomes a logical choice in that way. And political science and social sciences courses has a logical affinity towards cracking UPSC, but then it is UPSC, as ma'am said. It does not come with guarantees because the success rate is 0.01%. So if that is the success rate, it makes it logical and maybe much more palatable.
Yeah.
That might be the connection between the two. Yeah.
So, sir, when we talk about Manav Rachna, how Manav Rachna is helping nurture such dreams?
So recently, like from this academic year itself, we are launching BA Political Science Honours with Civil Services. So as we were discussing that since the success rate and everything, things are getting more challenging with time. Like 15 years back when our parents were giving UPSC, world was different. Now the world is different. Now you have so many coaching centers coming into the markets as well, claiming that they will train you the best. So what we understood is that for students, this is only for students who are 100% sure that UPSC is the dream that they want to crack, then you should start earlier. That's the only thing. And in this course, what we did was we collaborated with an organization which is Sankalp IAS, which is in this coaching preparation of UPSC for the last 40-50 years. So we collaborated with them and we devised a module where they will learn political sciences in the 120 credits, and in 40 credits they will be trained by the people from Sankalp IAS in order to create a holistic foundational approach towards looking at UPSC, attempting UPSC. So that is the way we are at least trying to help these small achieve someone this dream. Yeah.
Sure. Okay, so let's start with a rapid fire first.
Okay.
I'll say a statement and then you will just have to mention whether you agree or disagree to that statement.
Okay.
Every student should understand public policy.
Agree.
Maybe. Yeah. Agreed. Yeah. To some extent.
Social media is changing diplomacy.
Yes. Agreed.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
India's influence will continue to grow globally.
Yes. Absolutely. 110%.
Political literacy is as important as financial literacy.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe in a
Depends on your
positive way or
priorities.
Yeah,
I
it
think.
depends.
Yeah.
depends.
Depends
Okay.
on your priority.
AI will transform governance.
It's already started to
It
do
has
that.
already. Yeah, agree.
Okay. Young people are more informed than previous generations.
Disagree.
I think they have more access to information. Whether that makes them informed, in the traditional sense, that we can have a larger conversation about it. But yeah.
Okay.
So no comments.
IR is one of the most underrated careers today.
Agree.
I think it's moderately rated because people have started to take IR seriously. So it's moderately rated, but yeah, it has more potential definitely.
Yeah, it's still
Yeah.
underrated.
Geopolitics is becoming mainstream amongst Gen Z.
Disagree.
Yes,
They have their minds working somewhere else, I feel. They still give less importance to geopolitics. It's not a prime area they would put focus on. I slightly disagree on this.
Yeah, I'll disagree with ma'am. I think to some extent, yeah, like they have a working awareness. I think because the idea is that considering our father's generation or our grandfather's generation, the geopolitical flux that we are in, the kind of things that are happening around is way too much. Like COVID itself, or maybe the wars or whatever that is happening, the context is different for the quote-unquote Gen Z population. So yes, they have more stakes in the geopolitics around it as compared to maybe few years back. Yeah.
I would like to add on to what Sir said. I think in this age of geopolitics, you cannot remain indifferent to whatever is happening to the world, right?
What I meant was that they have, the Gen Z reacts more than responding to it. They have opinions, and quickly, because they'll scroll the social media and they'll develop opinions about it to analyze. And because I feel that millennials used to follow the debates, and then of course they started the social media, they started understanding things on social media, so there was a balance that was achieved. I feel Gen Z is a little bit impatient with that. They would derive conclusions on the one thing that they would see and then develop opinions and analysis on that part. That's why I slightly disagreed.
I think Gen Z is more relied on social media, influencer culture and the opinion.
That's okay, I think, because see, largely every media, like you would know better because you are a media professional, but the idea is that every media, source of media has also evolved over the time. Right. So, for example, it has transformed from radio to TV to now maybe social media. So, traditionality has changed, but and youth by nature is reactive. So, maybe if you ask my grandfather at the age of 19, he was a hardcore reactionary, highly political youth at that point of time. So, youth by nature will be reactive. So, if there is a youth which is non-reactive, that's depressing. Youth by nature will be dating.
I think this also reminds me of the fact that I'm not sure if it's correct or not. That Karl Marx said that people or youth under the age of 25 should be at least reactionary, and they should at least be rebel.
Yeah, rebel with the idea that for right now you are protest by if you are living in a democracy, protest is your fundamental right. But if you are doing it for the sake of just disruption, then that's a different thing. But if you are doing it because you want to challenge certain status quo, you want to address some lacunas that there are in the governance mechanism, it is your fundamental rights, and that's why we live in a democracy. That's the
constructive conflicts are acceptable.
Yeah, that's totally acceptable. That's the idea. Yeah.
Okay. What do you think the most misunderstood thing about Indian politics is?
Then it's just related to elections. There's much more to it.
I think misunderstood in a way that maybe I think still I feel people think that they are electing the people in the highest positions. That's the problem. You are not doing that. That's why I said that's why the systemic awareness needs to be there. Still people think that they are voting someone at the top of the brass. That's not true.
But that's how the Indian politics is working anyways, right?
That's working. So that's why I said this is a major misconception. But yeah, structural misconception.
Okay. And what do you think the biggest myth related to Indian foreign policy is?
Myth? You want to go?
I feel that people feel that it's more idealistic than realistic.
I think people also have a consideration that they feel that Indian foreign policy, when a different government comes, every time there is an energy around it that it has changed. But any government, if you go to South Bloc, you get this assertion that foreign policy remains consistent. In a way, maybe there are some exceptions in other countries, let's not name them, but there are disruptions in foreign policy stances. But at least in India, largely post 1950s, there has been a consistent way it has evolved in a way. So we have not changed our foreign policy stances largely. So that level of consistency has been maintained overall. Like, what is our China position? It has not changed if Atal Bihari Vajpayee was there or Narendra Modi is there. It has not changed in that way. Or Rajiv Gandhi was there or Narendra Modi is there. It has not changed in that way. There are certain fundamentals of foreign policy that is sacrosanct. It does not change. So yeah, that might be a myth.
I think so. After when we talked about foreign policy, I think the one thing that has changed is that we have become more vocal in terms of the actions that we are taking. Uh,
No, maybe your voice is being recognized
I think
earlier
the
because
role-
of quote unquote social media.
The role of civil society
Yeah.
groups have.
Yeah, because earlier there was there was some way we were living in an isolation chamber where whatever is happening maybe thousands of kilometers away, the propensity of someone getting to know that is way lesser. We were only dependent on maybe DD News to come up with information. Now the challenge is also that we have to vet whether that information is fabricated also not because of AI and everything. So misinformation or disinformation, what you want to call it, that remains also a challenge. So that's why the idea that we are living in a fragile ecosystem in that way, but everyone is facing that. It's nothing new in that way. Yeah.
so, मैम जैसे आपने बोला फॉरेन पॉलिसी को लोग समझते हैं दैट इट्स मोर आइडियलिस्टिक दैन रियलिस्टिक. एक और क्वेश्चन इसी से निकलता है दैट whenever we talk about foreign policy, we think that a lot of people think that foreign policy doesn't concern them directly. है ना? तो इस पे like I just want to know your opinion. Like why do people think like that?
I don't know, but I think that things happening in one part of the world affects the other part of the world majorly. We can see the Gulf crisis right now. Right now, we are dependent upon technology, we are dependent upon social media, we are dependent upon fuel, we are dependent upon semiconductors. All of this, we are living in a global interconnected world. So things happening in one part of the world, it surely impacts wherever you are, because we see that after the liberalization, privatization and globalization, world is one now. Anything that affects one part of the world will surely affect the other part of the world. And if we see, we can see it from all dimensions, be it political dimension, socio-cultural dimension or technological dimension. It affects from all dimensions. It does.
Yeah, just adding on to that, like for example, a lot of talks has been happening over that. Let's go for EVs, for example.
Yeah.
Now the entire ecosystem of EVs dependent on magnets, semiconductors, or you have rare earth, which actually make these powerful magnets. These are not normal iron-based magnets. So who has the processing capability of creating that? It is Taiwan, for example. India is dependent on Taiwan. So if anything that happens in Taiwan has a direct effect on India or China, for example. So rightly put that we live in a connected world, but then the foreign policy choice is also that you need to have diversifications in that way, that you're not over dependent on one partner, you create buffers. So if there is a problem with one partner, you have other buffers that can help your economy to stabilize. That's what we are doing currently. That's what.
So I think along with diversification, we're also depending upon indigenization a lot.
Yes, that is one way of looking at it, but indigenization will take time. You require global partners, you require to have a stable foreign reserve. So in order to do that, you require that. So indigenization is definitely an important task, and then you have certain what we known as in IR we call it de-risking, which is that there are sensitive infrastructure that we cannot give to
rely on
problematic
others.
problematic countries, quote unquote. So that's why we use words like de-risking, that we make sure that, for example, whatever money comes, we would not allow nuclear facilities to go towards China, even if China has huge technological capabilities. So that is how foreign policy works in general. Foreign policy choices works in general.
So sir, when we say that that we are in competition with China, so don't you think that India should take a lead, or I'm sure India is definitely taking a lead when it comes to Southeast Asian countries. So Southeast Asian countries के साथ do we have a free trade agreement as we have मतलब with EU जैसे है, we have a free trade agreement with the EU.
For not Southeast Asian nations, we have bilateral trade agreements with some of them. With ASEAN also, which is the Association for Southeast Asian Nations, we are currently the observer countries as well. So we have definitely good relations, bilateral relations. There are trade infrastructures. EU is a different thing probably, but something similar. But the idea is that in this region, China is hyper dominating. So that's why India requires like similar mindset oriented countries, like the idea of quads maybe, you require United States, you require Japan, you require Australia, you require maybe France, European countries as well, in order to make sure that this region remains stable. Because China is not a normal country in that way. It operates in a hyper legacy oriented operation hota hai China mein. So in order to counter that or even create a legitimate balance, right now India and China relations border ko chhod ke, the trade relations are balanced in that way. There is rampant conversation that is happening as well. So, but the thing is in IR also, you do not negotiate with your neighbors. Neighbors आपका neighbors ही रहेंगे. You cannot change your कि apartment change हो गया, ऐसे नहीं होता उसमें. So India will always have to consider China, the China question जो हम बोलते हैं न्यू दिल्ली में at least. The China question हमेशा रहेगा इंडिया के पास. So how do you balance that is the real task.
So, sir, I would also like to ask one question on West Asia as well, since अभी वो current topic है West Asia में. Oil prices के बारे में काफ़ी debate हुई है इंडिया में. Do you, what's your opinion or what's your take on that situation?
Yeah, major, like it's not a new thing. It's just that अभी जैसे largely Russia Ukraine पे focus था, and now recently since things have escalated towards a different side, so all the eyeballs have gone towards it. And since there is some domestic repercussions in a way that it will eventually affect your pockets in a way, जो travel कर रहे हैं petrol पे, it will affect it initially definitely. So the idea is that the key is always what I earlier also suggested is that diversification आपका एक है. And second is जो current बोला भी जा रहा है, which is that you go towards greener alternatives. So you need to create infrastructure around it so that someone is also incentivized to go towards maybe EVs or CNGs or etc. So if you create a infrastructure where EVs are comfortable in a way और लोगों को interest लग रहा है या फिर सस्ता किफ़ायती हो रहा है EVs खरीदना, then people would eventually go towards that. Who wants to go for like petrol अगर इतना costly हो ही रहा है because of quote unquote geopolitical imbalances. So you need to be ready for that. That's why foreign policy और ये सब energy choices जो हैं, you cannot be always reactionary. आपको थोड़ा पहले से जैसे pivot करना पड़ता है. And things have been happening. EV पहले से ही markets में थे, but now you need to be aggressive if you want to shift towards that. So yeah.
Ma'am, I would like to take this question from you. What do you think should be or is India's new soft power beyond the usual yoga and Bollywood?
I feel India has always believed in the ideals of democratic governance, following ethics and giving importance to its Indian diaspora. So I feel we need to harness our potential on digital and social capital because the world is going there. So these are the ideals and these are the perspectives we should focus on, digital and social capital. Yeah.
So which country do you think is becoming more important in world politics, or which country do you think would become more important when it comes to world politics?
I feel India. India is playing a very important role in competing blocs all across. We see there have been problems happening in different blocs in different parts of the world, but India has always maintained a very diplomatic and very strong stance. In the line of cross-firing, India has always maintained a very graceful stance, and as the world is evolving and growing better, India has a major say, India has a major stakes in the world. We see different power groups, we see different power blocks, we see various energy groups. India has a major say and India has been part in majority of them. So I think that in India, it's the same question.
Yeah, I totally agree with the answer posed by ma'am. India is definitely one of the countries, but I think not just one country, but I think a region will eventually rise up, which is the idea of the Global South. Global South in general will rise up, and it has already started. This idea of a Western hegemonized world order, it is being challenged, and for a very long time it is being challenged, and this entire region will come up in its way. And now the idea is that who will lead or who will be the harbinger of this particular region, that can be a different question, but this entire region will eventually come up as, yeah.
So if you are an 18-year-old today and interested in global affairs, right? So, what is that one thing that you should start paying attention to right now?
I just realized I'm pretty old in that way. But yeah, I think China, I'm not being very biased because I observe China. But I think China will, if this 18-year-old is an Indian student interested in politics or looking at a career in geopolitics or whatever, China will be a non-negotiable actor. It is not going anywhere, and it will keep on challenging United States hegemony in the larger system, rules-based international order, whatever you want to call it. But you cannot ignore it in a way. So if you are a 18-year-old interested in this field, then China is your best bet in order to have an Indian opinion about China. Majority of the literature is Western dominated. You require people from India. There are a lot of experts, but you require the next generation also to come up and bridge the gap of looking at China. Yeah.
Being a scholar of political science, I would see the importance of governance and also the interplay of artificial intelligence. So I feel digital governance, I would pay a lot of attention to digital governance, and also, of course, looking at the crisis going along, the energy crisis, how we should rely more on renewable energy sources, and the country should really think about that for the future.
Another round of rapid fire coming for you. Okay. Politicians, the same goes, agree or disagree, right? Politicians should be active content creators.
Disagree.
They are already into content, so
Okay,
I
only the
don't
platform
think
has
they are
changed.
waiting for our answers. They are already content creators.
Memes influence public opinion more than television debates.
Agree. They do.
Memes, yeah, it works. I don't know whether more than television debates, because some television debates have more power than memes. But yeah, if you want to reach a larger audience, yes.
Elections are increasingly won online before they're won on the ground.
Agree.
Perception might be, but there is a lot of gray areas in that.
I think I would go with ma'am, because the scenario which happened with Donald Trump, I think.
Before the results come out, people have lot
Yeah,
to
but
say,
then
people have
you're
lot to
questioning
comment.
that the system
The
changes.
legitimacy of the system.
Yeah, that is a pretty red line. Yeah.
Biggest challenge for democracies is misinformation.
Yes.
News consumption without critical thinking can be dangerous.
Absolutely. Agree.
Yes.
The best leaders are great storytellers.
Yes.
Disagree.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Students who ignore current affairs may miss future opportunities.
Yes.
Agree.
The future of diplomacy will be driven by technology.
It's already,
Agree.
yeah.
It's
Absolutely.
already in place.
Okay. And the last, understanding politics help you create better decisions.
Agree.
Yes. Depends on what decisions you're trying to make. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am, and thank you, sir. It was great to have you here. Politics is often defined as something that is the art of governance, but what really lies at its heart are the people and the choices that we want to, that the kind of society that we want to take ahead in the future. But before we wrap up, we would like to know your thoughts on the podcast, and please drop them down in the comment section. This was Manav Rachna podcast, and until next time, you take care. Thank you.